Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Digital Signage Debrief. My name is Thomas Fraser-Bacon. On this episode we'll be looking at the evolution of the digital signage market, specifically over the last 14 years that Allsee have been around. My guest today is our Sales Director Richard Cherry, who's been with Allsee almost since the very beginning, so has seen many changes within the industry as well as developments within Allsee. Good morning Richard and welcome.
Morning Tom, delighted to be here.
So as I mentioned, you've been with Allsee for over a decade and prior to this you've had a wealth of experience in various electronic industries. So what are some of your earliest memories when you entered the world of digital signage and commercial displays?
Well, the first thing I remember, we had about 5 products in the range.
Yeah, if that.
Which was a nucleus of what has become today. So I think the first thing that struck me from sort of my background, which was traditional LCD TV, the fact that there was a screen there was sort of very natural to me, and I could see the potential on what has become a really sort of interesting market for us all. So yeah, those early days were very fond. I think one of the main challenges at the time, I seem to recall, was actually explaining to people what digital signage was all about, because I don't think people really got it. But now these days they walk into a showroom like we've got today and sort of people know what it's all about. So there's less of a sort of issue on that sort of a message than there ever was in the early days.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned obviously your background being in kind of domestic TVs. I think as the kind of company was starting, I think it was at that perfect time, obviously Bolly, the founder and managing director, kind of seeing the opportunity of more and more kind of commercial displays cropping up in train stations and airports, departure boards and things like that. And at the time, obviously digital photo frames were quite popular, so he kind of combined the two technologies with the ultimate goal of kind of making digital signage, commercial displays accessible to everybody. And I think even though our products have changed over the years and obviously our range has expanded, I think we've always tried to kind of keep that at the core really, and keep simplicity and accessibility, I think, at the centre of everything we do. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if there was any sort of magic about the industry, I think what we tried to do was debunk all that, with a very simple sort of plug and play, which we sort of developed in the early days, and that was very much the sort of core of our sort of raison d'etre, if you will. Sort of just to keep things very, very simple, sort of, well, not exactly mass market, because there was no mass market at the time, but it certainly was just the way that we sort of went to market with a very simple product, very simple piece of editing software, and just a small range to begin with. And there was sort of, it narrowed the choice down, and it was more direct in terms of choice.
Absolutely. Okay, so what would you say are some of the kind of milestones or high points?
I think throughout our sort of journey so far, it's been it's obviously building the team. It's been quite important, and obviously we've moved premises. This is our 3rd premises now. We're very proud of, and I think it's just really been the way that we've sort of built, our sort of part in the industry along the way. Again, keeping things sort of to the basics with sort of plug and play. Then we came along with the CMS and the forward thinking of that, and the fact that we've sort of kept the range together in a very sort of concise way, and again kept it to a really sort of very sort of simple sort of offer that people that not necessarily sort of into digital signage per se could actually understand and sort of get to grips with.
Absolutely. I mean, I guess one of the things as well I mentioned just now, obviously we've kind of gone from USB plug and play, and then I think 2013 we launched our CMS, our network solution, and we still tried to keep the same ethos again, of trying to keep things as simple as possible. So we created an all-in-one system. Obviously these days a lot of the bigger manufacturers, pretty much everyone's kind of emulating that, but I think because of our kind of Queen's Award win a few years ago, we were kind of, again, like you say, at the forefront of that development as well. I'd also say that kind of a lot of our R&D, our product development is kind of driven by partner feedback. I mean, I know a lot of your partners give a lot of feedback that drives some of our direction. Yeah,
I think what we've done along the way is try to keep it very simple, try to keep the offer very simple, because what you have to remember is that for digital signage, it was quite new to a lot of people, and I think what we managed to do and maintain was to actually sort of make that journey as sort of painless as possible, with a good concise range of products, good technical support, good technical innovations, like you mentioned, the plug and play, which it was in the early days, which is a very simple piece of do-it-yourself software, through to the sort of evolution of the CMS, which is a full-blown sort of industry type standard CMS. So I think we've sort of gradually sort of grown along the way with the business, but we've done it in such a way where we've sort of kept the offer really simple and attractive.
So I mean, just from your experience, your partners' feedback, how would you say over the years that end user requirements or expectations have evolved and changed?
I think the actual from going from just a screen, to things like freestanding screens, dual-sided screens, screens for estate agents. I think the applications have sort of widened and the breadth of product range has widened since we first began those early years. And I think what we try to do, and I think we do it really well, we tend to sort of find a slot and sort of develop something into that slot. And I think we do that very well. And the breadth of range, like I've said at the minute, is probably as wide as it's ever been. So I think that's something we do really well.
Yeah, I agree. I think from my perspective, I think one thing we do well is obviously we offer a very wide range of solutions. We offer lots of innovative solutions that potentially many others don't offer, like our battery displays, our rod-powered displays for estate agent windows, like you say, the double-sided screens, big range of outdoor screens, etc. I think a lot of that kind of innovation and R&D is really driven by kind of partner feedback. I think that obviously we've got such a wide range of partners, from AV integrators to traditional sign companies and distributors, and I think a lot of them with their ears to the ground, kind of without their kind of constant feedback and constant feedback from their end users about what the market wants and what the market's crying out for. I think that's really what kind of drives much of our development.
Absolutely. I think over the years we've got a very loyal customer base now, and as you say, I think it's really important that you sort of listen to the needs of the market and not just sort of go down some development route, which could be a blind alley. So I think where we've sort of used our sort of partners for sort of technical input and marketed input, I think it's been sort of quite invaluable. And that means at the end of the day you get buy-in from clients and things such as that, and what hopefully you come out with the end of the day is a product that's right for market.
Definitely. I mean, I think what sets us apart from other manufacturers, some of the bigger brands, if some of our partners who potentially buy from other brands, if they've got any feedback, there isn't really a channel to kind of provide that feedback to. Obviously with us, we're always kind of
Well, exactly. It's still a small company. I can't imagine the likes of some of the bigger guys listening to sort of the guy on the street. It's very much sort of driven by sort of R&D development teams.
Absolutely. Okay, so where do you see the industry moving in the future, within the next kind of few years?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting developments on the horizon actually that we're involved with. Electronic shelf labelling such as that, digital view, direct view LED, something that's becoming a more prevalent in the marketplace. Also touch technology, there's more and more touch technology in the field now, so we're seeing the growth in that area. And of course with outdoor screens and things such as that. So there's a lot of interesting growth areas within the marketplace now that we're in a very good position to sort of maximise.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you mentioned direct view LED and ESLs. That's obviously two areas that we're really kind of heavily investing in, because we can see obviously they're emerging technologies and they're kind of just around the corner. But I'd say you mentioned towards the end as well, outdoor displays. I think we've had outdoor displays on the market as long as I've been with the company anyway, and we've had a lot of time to develop those over the years and learn and develop the range that we've got. And I think that's an area at the moment, from my understanding anyway, within the last year or so, that's really kind of exploding. Have you seen the same from your perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in terms of the breadth of the range that we've got the touch, we've got wall mounted, we've got freestanding, we've got touch. So yeah, that definitely, that marketplace is one that's on the ascendancy, definitely.
Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with me this morning, Richard.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate it. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed on today's chat, especially some of the new and exciting products and technologies, please get in touch with us today.